Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Crypto Standard podcast with me, Jim.
And me, Jay.
So, Jordan, it is absolutely chilly willy freezing time here in Scotland. What's it like down there?
Do you want to know?
I bet you it's scorchio.
Well, yeah. I'm not going out of the house for the complete opposite reason to you, is that I can withstand maybe 30 minutes and then it's too much for me.
So people are going to wonder why we're not sitting chewing the fat, but there's so much to get on with. And I'm delighted that we have back Niamh, who used to be the RSR queen. She's now Nemo on Twitter. I love it. And there's no one better positioned, I would suggest, in the whole reserve protocol community and around crypto Twitter and what's going on in the whole crypto space. She's got a great barometer and a great sense of what's happening. So Niamh, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I know that it's been a bit rocky on the way up and down, but here we are, and yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. Right. I've got one question. Sorry, just when you were doing that intro, where did Nemo come from? I've wondered this. I've always wanted to ask.
So Nemo was actually a nickname that I had when I was in Australia. I think that they really struggled with my name, the spelling, how to say it. They didn't understand it. So Nemo just kind of, it hit, and somebody called it me that one day, and at work, everyone called me it. So I like it. It's easy to say. Yeah. And the whole RSR Queen thing, I just wanted to shift that off and do a new kind of vibe. So yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So Niamh, for those who don't know you, you're based in the Republic of Ireland. You are still a nurse.
Still a nurse, yeah. I still work as a nurse. I'm still working to this day.
Yeah, you're a mother. You're a crypto investor, and is there anything else I've missed?
No, that's basically it. That's all I do. Nursing, crypto. I'm a mother, wife. So that's what my whole life kind of revolves around.
Yeah, and that's not a bad blend actually of hobbies and family. So let's get down to it. So recently, Nevin Freeman, the CEO of the Reserve Protocol, he came on Twitter Spaces, and so I know I kind of stirred things up a little bit, and a few people jumped on it. There was like 100 retweets of when I said I'm not fully happy with Reserve and Nevin, and it caused a bit of angst on crypto Twitter. But fair play to him, he came out and he did a Twitter Spaces. Park that for a second. 6 months ago, we were all pretty ardent fans of the Reserve Protocol, and no one understood it better than you. So what was your understanding of it at that time?
So Reserve were trying to create a stable coin that was basically immune to inflation. And the whole idea behind it was, as an RSR holder, you would be ensuring that coin and helping it to stay stable. And with arbitrage, you would stake your RSR against the stable coin, keeping it stable. And it would obviously help to burn RSR in the process by something called arbitrage. Now, it gets very complicated in terms of how that works and stuff, but basically the supply was going to go down and the price would technically go up. And so your RSR was going to be worth a lot more than it was. And that's initially what Reserve wanted to do. I don't know if you want to talk about the shift or more on that subject. Well,
yes, so I think at that time, that's exactly my understanding. So it would drive value in that someone would be burned, you would be using your RSR to buttress and support the RSV stablecoin at the time. And then, yeah, so then what happened was they went to Venezuela. They've been working really hard there as a company. They've got allegedly over 500,000 people using it, with a mixture of retail and retailers. And that's brilliant. And then they've announced that they were going to, I think it was Argentina and Mexico and that sort of thing. In the meantime, Nevin Freeman has grown his team to over 150 odd people, Spanish and English speaking. I mean, it's a fair sized operation. But then something started to just lose its way, and and then that was reflected in the price, and I think also the community. And one thing that I noticed the other day was when Nevin did his spaces, there was no more at any point than 138 people on it. Now, I feel that he should have like 1,100 or 5,000 just now based on what he's doing. So that's why I put out the tweet of, I think the comms is a bit poor. So we kind of lost our way a bit in the last 6 months.
That's a kind of a tough one. In terms of the change of the protocol, it seems like there's kind of like an elitist intelligence there in the background, that people who got it, and they got it straight away. And I think people that were on Twitter, the likes of me and you, that maybe I don't have a big tech background myself. Crypto, I do understand the generalization of crypto, but Reserve are doing something so complex and so intrinsic that it was extremely hard to decipher what Nevin was saying when he was doing his original video. When he speaks, he's speaking as the creator. He's speaking as somebody who's made this. It's his baby. And I suppose it doesn't come across in the layman's terms that we would need to kind of process. With the original Reserve, I would always kind of make it digestible, make it fun, chat about it on Twitter. I wanted people to know what they were doing in the simplest terms possible. And I think Nevin feels that he did explain it simply the first time, but it just wasn't hitting home with people. And I think there was a lot of fear.
Yeah. And then what happened, and I'll let you come in, Jordan. Then what happened was he's come out recently and sort of instilled this new, here's how it's going to work. And I think we also need to bear in mind that it's still just it's not even getting a utility, it's just a token. RSR is doing nothing, and it won't really come into its own until mainnet. So where do you feel we are now, Niamh, in terms of RSR and what stable coins these our tokens are going to be?
So Reserve have they've turned around and said, look, we shouldn't be the number one person that's going to create this stable coin, run this stable coin, control it, and it be us that is the number one control factor over the stable coin. What they've said is that's not really decentralization at the end of the day. We are going to provide a platform. We're going to provide the ability to create your own stablecoin with your own assets behind it. And us as the holders of the RSR will be able to ensure whichever one we feel is worthy of insuring, if you like. So originally they're going to, when mainnet kicks off, we're going to have RSR, which is our token. We're going to have RSV, which is going to be backed by 3 different stable coins. But it's not going to be yielding any value back to us, really. It's not really a decentralized coin. So they kind of have it there as a kind of a hedge against other coins. I think it's kind of to start off just the mainnet. But RSX is the one that they're bringing forward as this is the coin that we're kind of starting off the whole mainnet with. Put your RSR against this. People that are using the app can save their bolivars or their fiat money into this coin, and all the transactions and the revenue are going to be paid directly back to the RSR holders. So what they're kind of doing is starting off with the RSX coin, but then anybody around the world can say, you know what, I don't like how those assets are backing up this coin. I think it's going to falter here or default here. So I'm going to create a coin that has these assets. And we might go, actually, that's a really good option. And we might decide to stake some of our RSR against that and insure it. So the idea is Reserve are not going to be, what Nevin had said was, we may put ourselves out of a job here. And what we might do is we might actually be providing the ability for somebody to create a stablecoin that's bigger, better, and more opportunistic than we are doing. And we, as the RSR holders, are basically just deciding which one of those coins is going to be the next stablecoin. And that also removes the centralization of governments who control stable coins. And Reserve are doing something that's completely revolutionary and a little bit altruistic as well, I think. But yeah, that's I think it's a big upgrade. I think it's a huge upgrade to kind of summarize it, and I'm really happy with how he explained it this time around.
This time around, I was so happy. It was one sentence that actually it cleared up a lot for me, and it was when he was talking about you're not insuring against everything. You're now splitting that up and you're picking what you want to insure against. And I don't think I really fully understood that before. But one thing I've been thinking is mainnet, when it comes, is going to have to be big, in my opinion, that they're going to need people to insure against these stablecoins that are getting created. But at the moment, the RSR community get RSR, or kind of get RSR. But what about new people coming in? How do I explain this to new people coming in? They're just going to be like, no, I'll stick with Bitcoin. I'll stick with something else.
Yeah, that's the problem I think that we have, is that, you know, there's a group of people, reserve rangers, that have been invested from the start, that got it straight away, and they are very much of the opinion that everybody should understand this. Like, what's so stupid, like what's so difficult to understand? But when you're trying to market this to people that want to buy, that you want to buy RSR, it's very hard to wrap it up. It's very hard to kind of package it to people and explain it, because we're doing it in theory here. We're all speculating as to what Reserve is going to do, and hopefully they're going to pull it off. So the marketing, I mean, I think at Mainnet they really need to pull up their socks and like come out with some kind of digestible information for most people to buy it. Me and you that get it and listen to all these and spend 2 hours listening to Nevin explaining in detail, you know, how it works, we get it. But it's really hard to bring in new users and new people that want to invest without, I suppose, dumbing it down. And that's what we have to do, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take it back to some basics in terms of cryptocurrency. So there's the cryptocurrency trilemma, as they call it. So you've got to have decentralization, governance, and scalability. So it was great to hear him say, we kind of want to put ourselves out of job so that the protocol will just do its own thing. So there's your kind of decentralization and sort of governance tied in with that. So they're trying to get all that right, so that if I'm thinking like a state or a city or a country wants to create a stable coin, they literally can create it and then plug it into the protocol. And then there's a scalability thing where he's like, well, I don't want to have to come back and have to recode stuff in a year because we got it wrong. So I think that's what they're trying to do now. So that all ticked a lot of boxes for me. But here's when I really didn't understand. I should probably ask, is it in Flamingo Mafia we trust on Twitter?
Yeah.
Him and I become friends. He seems to really understand it. I know obviously Michael's Lone Ranger, so him and I had some sort of terse words, but I'm glad we're friends again. So here's what I didn't understand. So on the call, he said, let's say you had a stable coin that had $100 billion worth of in it, and it generated $2 billion a year of rewards, staking rewards, which would then be given to the people who'd staked their RSR. Where does that 2 billion come from? Because I'm trying to work out how the coin becomes scarce. Remember in the arbitrage, you would burn it, so the idea become less of it, a bit like what Ethereum's doing just now. It's getting burned all the time. Where does the 2 billion come from? And is that 2 billion, has the R token provider who's got 100 billion, have they got to buy that 2 billion somewhere? Do they generate it? That's how I don't understand.
That now you were really stepping into the complexities of it. And like I said, the theory of it, I think it was something that they'd mentioned, that the revenue was going to be brought through the transactions of the stable coin. So if, let's say you have a person who's got the app and they suddenly mainnet kicks off, RSX is available to people, and they want to put their, let's pick Venezuela, put their bolivars into RSX. That transaction, I think, is creating the revenues. And I'm not 100% sure, because again, we're moving into kind of the complex side that Nevin could only really answer. But in some way, those transactions will create the revenue, which will then pay back the RSR holders. There's definitely some stuff there that I'm still struggling with, and I'm sure, you know, maybe Flamingo Mafia, maybe Nevin can actually explain that. But I think that's how we're going to get paid out.
Right. Okay. And it's interesting also that, so at Mainnet, the other thing I picked up on, which I thought, there's just things you just keep hearing, was he talked about the dashboard. So there's going to be the dashboard and they're going to have this app. And I thought this could be quite cool. Now, I've never used Uniswap, and I don't really want it to be like Uniswap. I just thought, I wonder if you can log into your app, have your dashboard up, your R tokens, and then you've got your RSR sitting. You say, right, I'm going to transfer 1,000 RSR into that token, and you go and it says that's it, locked up for 30 days at an APY of 2%. And then after 30 days, it just says, here's your cash.
Yes. And I think what he said was, when the developer Taylor had come on, he said that actually it would be whenever gas is appropriate, you can actually take your rewards. So that's the great thing. With the dashboard, the Reserve had said that they will make their own dashboard and make their own interface, but it won't be just whatever they said, because it's pulling it directly from the smart contract. It'll be whatever the coin or the governor of that coin will be putting out an analysis as well. So we'll be able to decide what ones have higher yield. It'll take a bit of work for sure, because we'll have to research these coins. We'll have to figure out which ones have the higher yield and which ones are more risky than others. And, you know, I think at first we're all going to be like piling into the safe ones and kind of testing the waters with the others, maybe 10% here, 10% there. And in that year after mainnet, there will be a lot more I suppose, exploration of those riskier coins, but I think we're going to play it safe, and the yields are going to be low for the first 6 months when we're starting to stake against our RSX or whatever it is. I keep processing it in my head, all those kind of questions that I'll want to have, but in my mind, I would like to stay safe as best I can with 50% and then kind of explore with the rest.
Yeah.
Interesting
that I spoke to someone senior in the reserve team over the last 6 months, and because I was saying, I can't understand why such a great project is not being picked up, because you've got on the website, you've got all this amazing cast of seed investors, amazing, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be getting picked up anywhere. And to be fair to this person, they did say, look, we could go out tomorrow and we could go to 5 or 10 of the top influencers on Twitter, etc., and we could pay them and we could discuss them. And before you know it, it could be 25 cents. He says, but that's not the way to build this. And do you know what? When the time comes, we'll do that, but we're not ready for that. And I thought that, I just wonder if a lot of this comes down to patience as well, which a lot of us don't have in the crypto Twitter, cryptocurrency investing.
No, see, there was too many opportunities, and a lot of people, there was opportunity lost. So and I always say this, you can be too early to a project. You can be very much early invested. I mean, when I bought it, it was 0.03, and I rode it all the way up to 11 cents, came all the way back down. And in fairness, I only hold about 1/8 of the RSR that I had. And for the reason being that I could see the slippery slope was happening, that things were starting to come down, that people were starting to pull out in terms of the patience, people were losing the patience. So as an opportunity, I pulled out, moved into other stuff. I now have liquidity available, and for me, reserve is the place to have it. And I'm not ready just yet to come back in, but I'm going to come in heavy, and I'm going to come in with probably 3 times what I could have had. And I really, really want to take this on the long road. Like I really do. I want to be in reserve for years to come, decades to come, because this is what they're talking about. Even in a century, they'll still be around because of what they're providing. So it still hits home as it's the smartest investment for me in the space, but is it the most opportunist right now? That's the question. And it's to be seen at mainnet, I suppose.
I've got one question that I literally just thought of this right now. they want to be here for decades and centuries. Does that mean that they rely on Ethereum being here for centuries
Great
or
question.
decades and
Great
centuries?
question. Great question.
I
And
wonder
I
what
think
happens with that.
I know that Smeddy had said when it was coming out at mainnet that this isn't a software that can be fixed, fix your bugs as you go along. Like, it's a hardware. Once it's in the people's hands, like, that's the way it works. Now, in terms of the blockchain that it runs off, I'd imagine that they could be able to migrate. They should be able to migrate. I mean, if Ethereum fails and something better comes out and gas fees are lower, it could be done. And the question wasn't asked to Nevin. It was one of the big questions, but he didn't have time. But maybe I might bring that forward in the reserve commune. I know they're having another chat, but I think they could do it. Yeah, I think they could.
Yeah.
I mean, most people can migrate. So
yeah, I think there has been talks of it before, or suggestions of it, like months ago. But I just thought of it there, like, it heavily relies on Ethereum at the moment. And yeah, I don't know how easy it is to move. I'm not technical.
Wouldn't, perfectly honest, I wouldn't be my area of expertise in terms of how change to another, especially if you're Ethereum based. Is that going to be problematic? Are you going to have to change a lot of things? Great question. I always say good question when I don't know the answer.
None of us know the answer.
No, none of us do.
Final one in reserve then. Did you ever think you'd be saying, and it's only 1 cent again?
It's only 1 cent? No, I really didn't. I really, truly, honestly did not think we would come this far down. I thought maybe we would sit around 5 cents, 6 cents. But there was so much that happened, and it just happened at the wrong times, I suppose. And it lost traction in a lot of ways because the protocol change scared a lot of people. And obviously with Bitcoin coming back down, we had the Bitcoin all-time high, wasn't it, November? And things just started to slide. I mean, it's crap, but I think that it's an opportunity for me anyway. I'm certainly going to be taking this with both hands. I'm waiting to get under a cent. I'm going to be honest with that. I think that Bitcoin's not holding very well. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that's freaking people out, inflation and gas prices and all that kind of stuff. And I would like to see it under a cent, just to basically for selfish reasons.
Yeah. Okay, that's so we're cautiously optimistic on reserve.
Very much so, optimistic.
All right, let's move on a little bit to what's happening in the world today. So you brought up the subject of Bitcoin there. I think it's sitting roughly about $38,000. It had a little rally over the last couple of days to 41 or something, but it hasn't tanked. So I would have thought by now that Bitcoin, based on everything that's happened, would have tanked, but it's holding its own.
Yeah, it's a strange one in that it just keeps kind of ranging back and forth and back and forth. And I don't know whether people are taking that as a kind of a support or they're taking that as just shaky ground. I mean, I've looked at a lot of pages on Twitter to try and figure out from traders, people that do technical analysis, as to where they think it's going. And the bearish guys have pointed out like 28,000 Bitcoin dropping down to 24, and I was thinking, oh God, that's a bit extreme. I don't think we're going to go that far. And I know I'll probably eat my words in a few weeks' time, but I do think that we're not going to pump for the next few months anyway. I think that there's too much uncertainty. People are very cautious, but also people have started pulling out of like meme coins, other coins. There's less kind of talk on Twitter. That's dying down. There's not a lot of liquidity in the market at the moment. People are fearful. So is it going to stabilize around here? Don't know. I can't comment on that, but I would like to see it range for the next few months anyway, just to kind of get some confidence back.
Yeah, I think it's the whole narrative of crypto and Bitcoin have totally changed. Like we were saying 6 months ago, we had the first leg up and then it came back down, and then there potentially was going to be a next leg up if it followed the same cycle that Bitcoin has done. But now, real world events, everything that's happening in the world, for me anyway, has thrown that out. Like, you can't rely on that anymore. And people can't just be like, when's the next leg coming? When is it coming?
I think we used to use it as a hedge, kind of like Bitcoin was always when things were getting shaky with fiat and currency, and somebody had mentioned that Russia were going to start using it and all this kind of stuff. That's pure speculation, but we used to use it as a hedge. Now people are a lot more fearful. And like I said, with so many institutions buying Bitcoin and holding on to it, and huge whales holding on to it, it just feels like it's not what it used to be. It used to be like kind of the people's coin, if you like, and now it's just so tightly held by people with thousands of it that I just something better has to kind of, I suppose, hold it up. I don't know. I can't get my head around it at the moment.
Did you see that Barry Gilbert, the guy who runs kind of Grayscale Trust, where he came out this morning and he said, I won't say anything, but he's quite cryptic at times, and he annoys so many people. But I wonder, Niamh and Jordan, if now's the time or this year that we're going to see a proper spot ETF as a result of America becoming more hands-on and more comfortable with crypto.
Good question. Jordan, you answer that one.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. And I think the SEC will have looked at what Biden has put into this regulation, how I haven't fully looked into it because I've just woken up. But it looks like it's not as severe as people first thought. And this comes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast. If Russia adopts gold, then America are potentially going to go more towards the Bitcoin route. And the SEC will see this and they will start, I think they will start approving stuff because they've got, we must have about 16 or 18 requests now or to be approved. It's crazy.
Yeah, like when you get into like the regulations and stuff like that, then that's something that they pull and they push, and they're constantly saying, oh, we're going to regulate, we're not. Then China ban us, then India ban us, then Russia suddenly are going to be taking it over, and then they pull back. And I usually don't listen to that kind of stuff. Anything with regulation, anything with trying to control Bitcoin, or anything trying to control crypto, I don't pay any attention to it because really they can't. I mean, if you're holding your Bitcoin in a cold wallet, what can they do? And it's always like just sensational news to kind of scare people off investing. I don't know, but somebody had said today that digital currencies as well were probably going to be not banned, but they're going to be problematic in the future because they're going to be controlled by governments and stuff. And then we push back to the reserve decentralization stuff, and it's interesting to think like what governments are going to do in terms of controlling their currencies and how they're going to push that forward against Bitcoin. But it's all speculation again, and it's you could just talk about this for hours in theory, how it could turn out. Yeah.
See if you look at, so we've known each other for a couple of years now, and if you think about the conversations that maybe we used to have on Twitter about when Bitcoin was maybe $10,000. Now we're sitting at 38,000. We're saying, oh my God, is it going to tank? And it's like, and then we've got guys like Ray Dalio, Bill Miller, Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, came out this week and said the mathematics in Bitcoin are phenomenal. So this is all actually happening because 2 years ago, I wasn't on the radar. But it feels there's an impetus building up, and at some point, I feel it's a pressure pot, and right now the pressure pot's heating up, and I think at some point, and it could be 2 months or 2 years, it's going to explode upwards significantly.
I do agree that at some stage there's going to be a worldwide adoption of crypto. I mean, it's happening already in every way. If you look at the metaverses and you look how people are storing their coins, like you can use crypto in every shape and form. Bitcoin's always going to be king. It's always going to stand at the top. So if people are doing stuff like, I had this conversation with somebody as to what would you do if you died? How would anybody access your cryptocurrency? And there's a new company, I think it's called SHA or SHA, where they actually help families, to access your assets. So this is, it's in every aspect of life that you can actually adopt cryptocurrency. Bitcoin will sit at the top, and of course it's going to send. And gaming and metaverse and NFTs and all that. I think even my dad now, he'd be asking about Bitcoin. It's on Fox News. You can see the prices on the normal stock markets, and it's really adopting. It really is. But there's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of ignorance around it. And you know, like you say, we are still early, cliche. It's just how will governments kind of package it for people in terms of their own stable coins, or you know, how people will adopt it.
And do you think that you know, if you look at things like Cardano, Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, they've sort of, no one's really talking about them just now. They're talking about Bitcoin, and even Ethereum. I mean, there's not really much getting said about it, but it's quietly burning itself to death. Ethereum, it's burning away. I think it's like so many $1 billion have been burned. It's getting ready for Ethereum 2.0. Staking, could all that happen? I just wonder if we were to have this conversation, I mean, God willing, this war ends and we have this conversation in a year's time. I think the crypto community, I think the crypto sphere is going to be on fire.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people, somebody said to me recently, do you think Ethereum is going to be the gold standard, or something going to take over from it? And in my opinion, I think something could be better, but I think that they have a lot of work to do in terms of like the gas fees and stuff. But Ethereum could, you know, like you said, it's burning itself to death at the moment, and it could absolutely explode. But could it be replaced? Well, Bitcoin can't be replaced, but every cryptocurrency is in danger of being replaced by another one. And talking about the future of what Ethereum is, it potentially, I hate to say it, but could overtake Bitcoin in price range, maybe in time to come, obviously with all this burning. It's like I said, all speculation again, but I do like what Ethereum's doing, and Ethereum, you know, 2.0. It's absolutely going to fly, and I hope to see next year it to be, you know, maybe I'll invest in a little bit of Ethereum. I don't know. It always is a bit of a stable coin to me.
How do you cope, Niamh, with family, with friends, with colleagues at work when you're so deep in your knowledge of crypto and you understand it? How do you? And a second part of that question is, how do you feel it's been adopted in Ireland just now in terms of people talking about it?
Zero interaction with anybody. I think when things were exciting and people were buying, you know, Cardano and Ethereum, and it was, you know, back last year or the year before, Bitcoin at all-time high was the highest interaction I've had with people talking about it. Right now, most think that it's going to zero. People are very much fearful of it, uncertain of it. It just, even with the conversation I have with people at work, like nobody gets it. They've heard of Bitcoin, but again, like I get people to try and most people at work have Revolut account, which is kind of like a Cash App in the US. And I'll say, you can buy Bitcoin on your Revolut account. I said, you can just buy like 10 euro worth of it. And I show them how it works. And I'm like, it's actually quite low at the moment if you wanted to play around with it. And so I'll try and get them to, you know, buy a little bit. And then usually a week later, they're like, oh, I sold it. And I'm like, okay, but you've kind of got into it a little bit. And then the questions will kind of start to spread out and fork out. And they'll be like, well, what about this coin? What about that coin? Where else can I buy it? So, just getting interested, trying to get people interested and to physically do it on their phone, I think is ropes a few people in. And a lot of girls actually that I work with will say, oh, my boyfriend's involved with that. Oh, my husband's involved with that. So it's not so much around the female group, I suppose. It's more with the males that they kind of get it more. and the tech side. So yeah, it still needs a lot of pushing, and I'm trying my best in my circle to put it forward.
Jordan, are you getting much down in Mexico about it?
Yeah. Can you hear that background noise?
Slightly.
Kind of, yeah.
Don't know what's happening, but we're all good. Well, I'll just roll with it. Am I hearing, oh, I've got such a good story for you. Right. This happened to me last night. I was on my laptop, just sitting outside in a cafe, and someone comes up behind me and taps me on the shoulder. And they started speaking Spanish to me. And I was like, no, I don't know any Spanish. I'm sorry. I'm learning. And then he's like, okay, 1 minute. And he goes away and he types to translate into his phone. And he shows it to me. And he's like, I saw your laptop and I saw Bitcoin. Me and my wife were really interested in getting into it. Like essentially, what do you do? So I orange pilled someone yesterday through Google Translate, and it was the weirdest thing ever. It was honestly so strange. But he downloaded Binance, which is what he could use here, and he started the verification process. And like, I was like, if you have any questions, you can message me and I'll try and translate it. But so strange that people want to know, but people don't know how to know. And it's just little, you need, like you were saying, Niamh, is just introducing them a little bit of it at a time. Like with Revolut, they can buy it and then they're intrigued about it. And then they want to learn a little bit more, and then maybe a little bit more. And it's just little baby steps. It's not just, boom, here you go, research this. Not a chance. They're not going to do that.
True. I think that a lot of people with Bitcoin is the easiest kind of stepping stone to start them off. I mean, as you get down the line, reserve, yeah, I can explain that to you, but it'll be extremely difficult without you doing it in theory. People have to be able to practically do it. They have to be able to buy it, send it, sell it. And like you said, perfect example with the guys getting on Binance. That's brilliant. I love to hear that.
I do hope that down in places like Venezuela and Mexico, when Reserve bring out their new app, whatever it is, that people can hold Bitcoin and RT tokens in it. Otherwise,
yeah,
you could have lots of people just use Bitcoin instead of using, Reserve. So it'd be good if it can hold all these different assets in it as well.
That'd be great. Yeah, like one big wallet for everything, that you're not switching. Like that was another conversation with, I think it's very fractionalized in crypto. There's not just one exchange, there's like 100 exchanges. You have to send things through wallets. That is complicated. Trying to buy stuff is complicated. Trying to explain how to buy stuff, especially if you can't use one exchange in one country and another. If the Reserve can put it all in one app that everybody can just use and buy their Bitcoin, send, transfer, swaps, that kind of thing, it's going to be huge if they can package that around the world and send it around the world, like PayPal, like Cash App, like Revolut, and it's still fundamentally the same. Reserve is the same product, and it just needs to be packaged in one go for people to use. And I love the concept, I really do.
And and now a word from our sponsors, crypto.com. So you're gonna have things like crypto.com and Binance, etc., who also, they don't want people moving away. They want to keep the money in their ecosystem as well. So there's going to be a lot of competition.
Yeah, revenues and fees and stuff like that. And actually, funny you talk about it, crypto.com actually sent me an email last week trying to get me to explain where my money was coming from. And I think that a lot of exchanges now are trying to stop laundering of money, and they really in depth wanted bank statements, they wanted all this kind of stuff. And I don't think they particularly want to do that to people because it puts you off. But I'm starting to notice across all exchanges, they're getting a little bit tighter.
100%.
Don't know if you've gotten emails during the week yourself.
So I got that a few months ago from Coinbase, literally wanting more than my accountant or my lawyer at MD would ask. It was literally lift up your, take your trousers down, Jim, I want to see everything. and I wasn't prepared to do it. I thought, I'm not doing that because you've not been great with me. So there's no way I'm just giving you all this to satisfy your KYC or whatever. I haven't had anything from crypto.com, but I'm expecting these things to come in, because there's a few Bitstamp and other things that have come in and said, we need you to do this, we need you to do that.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit excessive in that they're asking for tax returns from people, they're asking for all this information, and it's nearly the effort of doing it is too much that you just go, you know what, I'm just going to move to a different exchange, but then they'll ask for it and then you have to move to a different exchange.
Yeah.
And people are going to hop like kangaroos to try and get away from this. And I don't know how far we're going to get without having to say, okay, look, here's all the information you need. So yeah, I love the idea of like the decriminalization of crypto and let's make it regulated, but then it's taking away from the whole idea behind it of being decentralized and kind of organizing your own money. But you know, you want to do it legally, of course, as well. But the amount of effort that you have to put in to give this kind of information is huge. Like it took me like a whole week to organize all the information they wanted. I'm still waiting for them to get back to say whether it's okay or not. So we will see.
No, it is a lot you've got to provide. And you know what? For us who are doing it and who are paying our taxes and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I did my big tax return in January there. I used Coinly. I gave that a go, and it spurts it all out, and then it tells you what your tax is going to be next year, and you're like, whew.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah. So, are we all feeling pretty? Notwithstanding there's a war on and it could escalate at any time, but in terms of the cryptocurrency, we'll call it industry, building up with, you know, it's got senators behind it in the USA now. I've just seen South Korea has just elected a crypto-friendly president for the first time. So this is all happening. Might take 5 to 10 years, but are we feeling kind of bullish and hopeful?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely feel very hopeful for it. The future of crypto is here to stay. I mean, it's going to be here for decades to come, centuries to come. In what capacity, we will never know. It will evolve as it goes. I mean, could turn around and there will be no Ethereum in 20 years' time. It could be something else, but there will be something else. It will always be here. But they will try and regulate it, I feel, but not to the extent that they want to. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Jordan?
I don't think I've ever been so bullish. People ask me this, but the price is down. I'm like, I've never been so bullish, because this is, as we say, this is the fight that, when I'm saying the fight, I mean the fight between the old financial system and the new. And I think this is the fight that we have to go through. I mean, knew this was coming. It's not very nice, but I know or all of us are on the right side of this fight, and the morally right side of this fight. So yeah, I'm super bullish, and I want to see Scotland have Bitcoin on its balance sheet and then have a reserve stable coin. That is all I'm saying.
Oh God. And on that bombshell, Niamh, it's been that 45 minutes has just flown by there, and I wanted to keep it to time today. That is it's just fantastic having you on, having your knowledge, having your enthusiasm, and just and also great to have another, you know, woman in crypto. And we need more and more and more to understand it. So thanks for coming on and accepting our invite, and we hope we can have you again maybe another 6 months and see where we are.
Absolutely. Around Mainnet, we should definitely have a debrief of everything that's happening. But thank you so much for having me on again. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you guys.
Awesome.
All right. Listen, have a great weekend.
See you later. Take care.